What's up guys, it's TJ, your men's holistic health coach here with you today. Today we're going to do masterclass number 1 of my Don't Sleep on Sleep video series. So we're going to be talking all about sleep and what we can do to optimize your sleep for the best health that we can achieve. And so with these masterclasses, these are all gathered, all the information in them is gathered from my experience and my experience helping and teaching clients, as well as from the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. This is a great book. I highly recommend you guys read it, because this is where I get lots of this information, and it's just full of a lot of good stuff. Obviously I don't have time to put everything in the book into these videos, so I definitely suggest going to read this book. It's full of super beneficial information to help you be able to optimize your sleep. So big thanks to Matthew Walker and his book. Also big thanks for all the people who participated in the studies. I'm going to include in the description down below so you guys have the sources for all the information I share with you today. So when I meet with clients, sleep is the number one thing I look at, because with sleep it's one of those things in health where it's not just a pillar of your health, but it really affects every single thing in your life. So when you don't get enough sleep, then you're going to see disadvantages in many areas of your life. So I've seen lots of clients gain muscle and lose fat just from sleeping a little more, obviously with exercise, but once we added sleep or more sleep and we looked at their sleep and we optimized it for their best health, and then we could see gains, we could see results, we could see fat loss. For example, when you don't sleep enough, studies have shown that we tend to eat more. Then when we eat more, our blood sugar can be all crazy, which is going to affect fat loss. And then, if that's not enough, our two hormones, ghrelin and leptin, which are both used for fullness or hunger to signal that effect in our bodies, are less efficient when we don't get enough sleep. So of course we're going to eat more, overindulge, and we're going to have our insulin levels up, which is going to affect our body's ability to be able to burn and utilize fat. So this is a big deal when it comes to gaining muscle or losing fat. And then when we don't sleep enough too, this also will affect our metabolism. We want a high metabolism to be able to use stored energy or fat efficiently in our bodies. So I want to keep our metabolism on the higher end, and not getting enough sleep is going to affect this. So we ourselves choose what's a priority in our lives, and we're the ones who decide what's going to have enough time in our lives. Now we need to decide that sleep can have enough time in our lives, because 1 in 3 adults in the US don't get enough sleep. And the issue is, even if we don't get enough sleep, we get so used to being sleep deprived that we don't realize that we're not getting enough sleep, because we're so used to being on sleep deprivation with our stress levels high, our metabolism is slower, and we don't want that. We don't want to be average. We don't want to be the average American, because if you check the average American stats, they're not good. So of course I want to help you, and of course I'm always going to embody myself to be a above average male, someone who can achieve higher, do better than just the average. So we want better than just average sleep of what most Americans get. To understand why we need sleep, I first want to go over what happens when we don't get enough sleep, and then we can start going into what happens when we do go to sleep. So Matthew Walker, the author of the book Why We Sleep, makes the analogy of sleep deprived driving with drinking and driving. And his claim, which is backed by many studies that I'll be including, is that driving sleep deprived is just as bad, and actually even sometimes worse, than drinking and driving. And so this is just one analogy of where we can realize just how bad it is when not only are we sleep deprived, we're using heavy machinery like vehicles to drive to work and back. So this can be very, very dangerous. Another quote that I'm going to quote here word for word from Why We Sleep is, "After 16 hours of being awake, the brain begins to fail. Humans need more than 7 hours of sleep each night to maintain cognitive performance." And so to me that is wild, because there's definitely times where I only sleep 6 hours a night as a new father, and I feel pretty good. I think I'm doing pretty well, but there's of course studies that have shown us that we can have cognitive decline when this happens, and so it's very important that we at least get 7 hours of sleep, if not a lot more. So we should always strive for anywhere in the 8 to 9 hour range if we can. So if cognitive decline wasn't bad enough for us when we don't get enough sleep, here's a list of some other things that can happen when we do not get enough sleep when we're sleep deprived. We got premature death, cancer, dementia, heart disease, kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, obesity, poor memory, a less effective immune system, and depression. And then this can also play a role in the impairment of concentration, high risk of injury. So with things like driving, for example, we have a high risk of injury when we drive sleep deprived. Then we also have poor blood sugar control, and then we have loss in peak and sustained strength. We have metabolic impairments. We we have respiratory capability impairments, and we have poor appetite control. And of course, this goes back to the hormones I mentioned earlier, ghrelin and leptin, which both will signal hunger or fullness within our bodies. And so when those are less efficient, then of course we're going to end up eating more than we probably should. And sleep doesn't only affect ghrelin or leptin, it also affects all of our hormones. So the efficiency of all of our different hormones, or in other words, our chemical messengers in our body, it affects all of them. And so when they're all less efficient, then we are going to have an all-around less efficient and a lesser quality of life. We're also not going to even live as long when we don't get enough sleep. And these are all things that have been backed by studies where we are really adding quality and quantity to our life when we make sleep a priority. This is really why I start with this with my clients, because again, I've seen results where clients, they just get better sleep and all of a sudden they have all these results come by without even changing their exercise or diet yet. All right, so what exactly happens when we go to sleep? Well, first off, let's talk about dreaming. So of course, everyone wonders, why the heck do we dream? Why do I have all these random things going through my head? Why am I in these weird, strange scenarios with people I haven't seen in 5 years? Well, because what's called our hippocampus, so the part of our brain that internalizes and processes memories and uses them and applies them to life, our hippocampus needs time to be able to integrate all the different memories and to discard what is needed and what is needed and applicable to our life. And so our hippocampus uses this time while we sleep to be able to dream. This is called REM sleep. And as we go through sleep, we have different stages we'll go through, and I'll get into the other stages here in a second. But with REM sleep, which is also called rapid eye movement, is the time when we are able to dream, and our dreams are used to process those memories, especially memories from the previous day. So our REM sleep is very, very important as far as memory processing. Sleep is also great for the heart because this is a time when our blood pressure is able to lower, our heart rate can lower, and we can go ahead and just let our body rest. So of course, giving our heart this break from pumping all day, sometimes very rapidly when we're working out or when we're stressed, it gives us our heart a break. And this is very, very important for our heart health, especially over a long period of time. So we all have something that's called a circadian rhythm. A circadian rhythm is basically the rhythm that we go through of different experiences or things we're doing when it's light out and different things we're doing when it's night and it's dark. And basically, to make this very simple for you guys, we can be up while it's light, doing things we need to get done, and when it gets dark, we go ahead and either go to sleep or we're getting ready to go to sleep. And so when we are able to have different things that we do, different movements, different activities associated with lights on and lights out, then we're able to help our bodies to manage the circadian rhythm, be able to follow the circadian rhythm well. So what do I mean by this? One thing we can do is we can turn off phones late at night, maybe an hour before we go to bed or even starting to get ready for bed. This way, our body knows that it's going to get darker and it's time to get ready to go to sleep. And so when we do things like we chronically stay up working a night shift, or we're staying late to midnight every single night, this is throwing our circadian rhythm off because we're awake when it's dark and then we sleep in when the light's out. And really what's going to be best for our hormones and different things going through our body is being able to follow the circadian rhythm well, to be asleep when it's dark and be awake when it's light. Now, of course, this is easier said than done. Like for me, I have a baby, so it can be very hard to do this, but I try my best, and I've seen the results of this, and it is very, very beneficial for us and our hormones and all the different things that we want our bodies to do optimally so we can achieve the goals that we have. So when we don't follow our circadian rhythm, we're also more susceptible to things like sleep disorders. And of course, we don't want sleep disorders. That's not going to be good. And we can also see a big correlation of sleep and mental illness. I work at a mental hospital, and I can see this firsthand, where I hear about certain sleeping habits before these patients were admitted, or even the patients themselves still have terrible sleeping issues where they're completely off their circadian rhythm. So of course their mental illness is not going to get completely better until they can learn to practice a more healthy alignment with their circadian rhythm. And so this is very, very important because there's a lot of correlations with mental disorders and sleep disorders, and Matthew Walker goes in depth in this in his book. On top of the circadian rhythm, our bodies also have another way of knowing when it is light and when it is dark and when to go to sleep. that is a hormone, a chemical called adenosine. So adenosine is basically, think of it like a sleep timer almost. So you wake up and you have very little adenosine. Then as you go throughout the day, this hormone adenosine builds up, making you slightly more and more tired. This is why when I talk to clients, I usually recommend that they work out first thing in the day when they have the most energy and the least amount of adenosine going through their body, so they can just get it done. They can put all their effort into it and get done for the rest of the day, so they can go and do the other things that need to get done. And this is why I, of course, also work out in the morning, so I'm able to do that. And I'm also able to stay on top of my circadian rhythm by getting sunlight first thing in the morning because I work out outside. So that's another tip I suggest for all of you. Just try and get sunlight first thing in the morning when you wake up. That way it helps set your circadian rhythm, and it helps you to be a little more healthy in alignment with nature and the sun coming up and going down. So adenosine usually peaks around 12 to 16 hours. So of course that is a awake window for adults. We wake up and we go to sleep usually around the time of after about maybe 14, 16 hours have passed. Then we're able to get our 8 hours of sleep. Getting sunlight first thing in the morning is very helpful because it's going to release chemicals or hormones such as cortisol and epinephrine. These hormones help our body to get up and get ready for the day and get things done. And so when we're able to do this, when we're able to get that sunlight and we're able to get that cortisol peak, then we're not going to get that cortisol peak later on, and that way our bodies are more able to fall asleep better at night. It's also good that we get at least 20 minutes of sunlight every single day. When we're able to get sunlight, and the more sunlight we can get, then it's going to be more helpful for our circadian rhythm, and we will be able to sleep better. I'm not saying do an extreme and just tan all day, because of course there's also going to be negative effects from getting too much sunlight. But what I'm trying to say is get an optimal amount, anywhere from 20 minutes, an hour, and be sure not to get sunburned. And it doesn't always have to be direct sunlight. You can have a mix of some direct sunlight and indirect sunlight. But just in general, trying to get at least enough sunlight is going to be very helpful for you and your circadian rhythm. So kind of like I said earlier, we don't want to be viewing too much light or any light really when it is dark outside. This will help our bodies to stay more in tune with the circadian rhythm and the natural cycles of nature. So we especially want to make sure we're not viewing any light between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. All the study included that mentions that this is actually very detrimental to the way dopamine, or one of our feel-good neurotransmitters in our bodies. Being up and seeing light between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. is going to mess up the way that dopamine works efficiently in our bodies throughout the next day. And so we want that to work well so we can achieve tasks and get things done, because that's what dopamine is all about. But we want that to work as efficient as possible. So we need to make sure that even if let's say you're getting up in the middle of the night to pee, then try to avoid looking at your phone or watching TikTok or whatever it is you do when you're up. And what I would suggest is what I do to help me get back to sleep. I don't look at my phone. I go ahead and I meditate. This is something, of course, I'm big on and I teach a lot of people on, is meditation. And so use this time in the middle of the night to help you to get back to sleep, calm your mind. Just go ahead and meditate. Simple practices such as box breathing. So in 1, 2, 3, 4, out 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do that, or just pay attention to your breath. And these are all great ways to help you to be able to keep your mind calm and to sleep well. So one thing that you probably never heard of or never even thought about that could be affecting your sleep quality is actually the way you breathe at night. And so, for example, I'm a mouth breathing machine. I mouth breathe naturally when I sleep. And so what I do to prevent this is I go ahead and actually tape my mouth at night, so I only breathe through my nose. Now, you're going to see some things on the internet that say don't do this. You're going to see other things that say it's completely fine. For me, I've been completely healthy. This is something I've suggested to people, and it's something that has definitely helped. It's something you have to get used to, of course, but it is something that will definitely improve your sleep, and it'll help your blood pressure, your heart rate, and these are things you can look up online, and I will soon have classes all about how to breathe optimally and to implement nose breathing into your life. And so I'll have classes on that soon, out after I do these sleep master classes. So Matthew Walker has two main ways you can check if you are deficient in your sleep and are suffering from chronic fatigue. One way, without a sleep assessment of course, is to ask yourself, when I wake up at let's say 7 a.m., then by 10 or 11, am I able to still go back to sleep, or can I stay awake? So if you need more sleep at 10 or 11, then that would indicate that you are deficient in your sleep. Another way is to wake up at around, let's say 7, and then can you get to 12 o'clock and still function optimally without caffeine? This is a big one because a lot of us drink caffeine and then we forget that we could be deficient in sleep and we think we're doing all right. But without caffeine, can we function optimally to 12 o'clock? And so if we answer no to either of these questions, then we know that we are deficient in sleep and we need to make sleep a bigger priority. Matthew Walker makes the analogy that sleep deficiency is kind of like not paying off a loan, and the interest keeps building up and building up and building up. This is going to lead to our chronic fatigue issue, where the adenosine levels are still rising high and we are not getting enough sleep, and so this is going to affect us physically and mentally. Alright, so I mentioned REM sleep. I want to go over it again. So REM sleep, like I said, it's rapid eye movement. So when you're dreaming, your eyes tend to move around, and of course nothing else is moving but your eyes do. And so we have the REM sleep where we're dreaming, and then we have what's called NREM sleep. So this is non-restless eye movement. This is when we are going, this is also called deep sleep. And deep sleep is when our bodies are able to really calm down, to really relax. We're not dreaming, we're just in a state of complete peace, complete rest. And this is, of course, just as important as REM sleep. There's not one or the other that's more important. They both have different functions, and we need both of them and within our sleep to be able to get optimal sleep. And we have 90-minute cycles that we go through. So for example, when we go to sleep, we tend to start off with maybe a little bit of REM sleep, and then we go into 90 minutes of NREM sleep. So we have this deep sleep. That's why if you've ever gone to sleep, let's say at 8 p.m. and then maybe at 9:30 your baby wakes up or you hear a sound or whatever, you're usually going to be in some pretty deep sleep by then. And so we start off with more NREM or deep sleep in our first half of the night. And then we are going to start getting more REM sleep in the later half of the night. And so we switch off NREM, then REM, NREM, then REM, and we gradually get to less deep NREM or deep sleep, and we start to graduate more into deep REM sleep and then lighter REM sleep as we start to wake up. So our bodies go from this deep state, and then we start to go into more of a dreaming state. And so that way our body is able to not only rest but also process memories through dreaming. And I'll mention napping real quick. So napping is really great. Usually when we nap in the first half of the day after we've woken up, we're going to get more REM sleep, and then when we nap later in the day we get more deep sleep, so NREM sleep. And because we tend to go right into deep sleep when we go to sleep at night, then it is good to maybe not take too many afternoon naps, or make sure after naps aren't too long, because it will affect the way we sleep within the night as far as getting that deep sleep in the nighttime. So I mentioned dreaming. Let's talk about it again. Dreaming is heavily correlated with memory. And so, like I mentioned before, dreaming is more for the organization, integration of memories within our hippocampus. So for example, when you're dreaming, you'll have a certain memory come up. You can kind of see how it's applied to life within the dreaming context without you having to do anything in real life or awake life, I guess. And so dreaming is very good for integrating that and to apply it to life. And our hippocampus gets that time to be able to organize it, integrate it. And then we go into deep sleep. This is actually when unneeded memories, or memories that we really aren't applicable to life, aren't very useful, this is where they get discarded. And then memories that we do need, that we want to keep around, that are very useful for life, we're actually, these memories are moved from our hippocampus, which is more right in the middle of our brain, and it's move to our neocortex, which is kind of a lot of the outside of our brain, or the outer part, not the outside, I guess. And this is when our memories are able to move, so we can start storing more memories. And this is all an application process of memories throughout our day and how we can apply it to the rest of our lives. So it's very, very important that we get both REM sleep and NREM sleep, because they're both very important for our memory health. REM sleep has also been shown to help us to correlate facial expressions and language with emotions. And so this is very, very important, because of course if we can't read emotions right, or read body language, or even know what to express ourselves, they can cause a lot of issues in our life, because we're emotional creatures and we need that. And so this is very beneficial when we can get enough REM sleep, then we can be able to be on top of our game with reading body language and reading emotions. And so to really understand NREM and REM sleep, let's talk about brain waves. So brain waves, and I'll give you guys an analogy. If you think about like a lake, you get a rock, you throw the rock in, it's going to cause very active waves on the surface, but then after a while it's going to slow down. This is how our brain is, or our brain activity is during sleep time. So during dreaming, of course, we're going to have slightly higher brain waves. Our brain is very active during this state because we're organizing, integrating all these memories. And of course, our dreams, we're doing this and that and this and that. And so it's almost like we're awake, except we are in a state where our body's able to be locked down, be able to be sedated, so we're not acting on our dreams, thankfully. And in NREM sleep, our brain waves are more slow. So there's still waves going on, but they're slower. Our brain activity slows down, so our brains are able to get rid of what we don't need and to integrate what we do need into our neocortex. These different brainwave states that we go through have different frequency. And so frequency is how much something moves in any given moment of time. So a higher frequency brainwave state is more active brainwave state. And the brainwave states go from highest to lowest in this order. It's gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And so these are all different brainwave states that we go through when we're asleep and of course when we're awake. And so during REM sleep, like I said, it is more active. We have higher brainwave activity going on, just like when we're awake, except of course we're sedated. And then in the NREM stage, we have less frequent brainwave states going on. And this is good because we need that time to have less energy going on with our bodies to rest. And so once you understand brainwave states, it makes a lot of sense that we have to go through these different states with our circadian rhythm throughout a 24-hour cycle to be able to have rest and also to be able to have time of activity when our brain is able to utilize all the different thoughts and memories that we have going on. So this is why sleep is very, very important. Really, to simplify this stuff, just think of REM sleep as more of the integrative state that we're going to go through where brainwave states are higher, and then think of NREM sleep or deep sleep as a more reflective state where our body is able to store those memories and to have it integrated within our very being. Alright guys, that wraps it up. So we've already talked about what's going on in our brains and our bodies when we're sleeping, and then we talked about what happens when we don't get enough sleep. I hope this is beneficial for you guys. If this was, please like and subscribe, so that way you can put me out onto the algorithm, and that way more people can learn how to optimize their sleep for better health. There'll be more videos out about this soon. Alright guys, we'll see ya.